we can cover it pretty quick. Um, just some programs we got going on. Uh-oh, kick me back out. All right. So, like I said before, my name's Josh Darty. Doing 4-H and ANR in Morgan County. And starting with 4-H, we've got quite a few things going on. I know Chick Chain and our livestock projects don't really have a whole lot to do with wildlife and forestry and that mess, but I'm super proud of those kids, and a lot of them have come from our more natural resource oriented projects. Um, Specifically, this young lady right here, if you can see her, that picture came from the first day she ever walked that cow. She's wanting to do some shows with it, and that girl is a ball of fire. She wanted to do chick chain and isn't going to be able to, but she's doing our livestock project. She's doing shooting sports, and I'm pretty sure she's going to end up doing wildlife judging with us. So all of these kids, I'm super proud of them, and they're jumping back into doing all kinds of things after probably about a year where we weren't able to do a whole lot. They're jumping back in like crazy. Um, but yeah, we got chick chain fixing to kick off here in about a month. We'll be getting our chicks and handing those out. Livestock projects, like Jenny said, she's headed right now to go do some horse stuff with some kids. And we got shooting sports. That is our big program as far as 4-H goes. Um, we've got, I think, 15 or 20 kids now, roughly, that are coming every week for shooting sports practice. I've got to get some more of them signed up for the BB competition that's coming up, and we've got quite a few that are wanting to do it and archery. So I'm super proud of those kids. I just got trained. I guess it was back in January for the hunting and outdoor skills portion of the shooting sports program. So hopefully we'll be able to throw some of that stuff in when we get finally started on wildlife judging. We'll be able to throw some of that stuff in there, and then by next year when we start doing our shooting sports program, we'll be able to really full force have that hunt and outdoor skills portion of it. And then wildlife judging here at the bottom. We haven't quite got to start doing practices yet, but I'm finally, for a while we couldn't get kids to commit to it, and I'm finally getting kids that are showing some interest. So even though it's a little bit later than what I wanted to get started, we're fixing to kick that off, and I am beyond excited about that one. That's been the one I've been excited about since I started. So I'm really glad to get that one going. And then as far as adult ANR programs, we've got a lot going on. Um, I'm sure, like most people, we just finished participating in the Tennessee Tree Day. We had right at 20 people, I think, a little under 20 people that ordered trees. Um, Total of like 330 something trees. So it wasn't a ton of people, but it was a good number of trees that went out and all got planted there. Well, it should have been, the actual tree day was March 20th, so hopefully they all got planted. But that was super fun. I wasn't real sure what to expect about that when I first started getting into it, but it was definitely worth doing, and it was a good time getting to work with those folks. Um, Monday, me and Jenny will be helping out with the county vocational school is doing an envirothon, and so I'll be doing a wildlife portion of that test for those kids that are going to be doing some pelt identification, looking at some habitat stuff, doing ID of tracks and all kinds of other stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that one. We're working pretty close as always with our county forestry association. We just had our first meeting of the year here. I guess it was last week. I believe it was last week. Martin Schubert talked about the carbon credit registry program, and all that is way over my head. So please don't ask questions about that. I tried my best to pick up everything he was saying, but there's a lot of high level stuff in that. That was pretty cool. But going forward, we'll be working with them. I'll be doing a timber sale 101 class with those guys going forward in the year. So we're looking forward to some stuff with that. Then we've got our Emory River Watershed Association. We're going to be working with them to do they're wanting to do a cleanup day and a hemlock treatment, but we're going to work with them to get them certified to do that stuff, just so there's, everybody's up to par on their safety stuff when it comes to doing that hemlock treatment, because there's obviously, working with stuff that's pretty volatile. So it's good to get those folks um, ready to work with that stuff before they do it. But we're excited about that. We're gonna be there for that when they do the treatment and stuff. So we're excited about that. And they're also, like I said, they're gonna do a cleanup at Potter's Falls, which is not far from our county office there in Wartburg. I've got the New Farmer Academy on here, and obviously that's not all wildlife and forestry related, but there is definitely some forestry related stuff that goes on with it. And Jenny asked me to mention that we are full, but if there are any agents that are interested in participating, we can probably work that out and still be within our guidelines. But as far as actual participants, we are full up, but we're excited about it. We had the first one last Friday, and it was on Zoom because it had to be. It was a bunch of coordination of getting to introduce some people that are important for new farmers to know. The FSA people, NRCS, all that good stuff. We got to introduce them to those folks. But moving forward, it'll all be hands-on. We'll be out in the field, so we are super excited about that. Actually, be out and doing stuff with people. Then moving on, ponds and fisheries. So that has been, I've said it before, and I will continue to say it. Ponds and fisheries have been my comfort activity. Going out and seeing people's ponds, helping them with, whether it be population stuff or a lot of pond weeds. Last year we had a lot of dollar bonnet calls. People just covered up with that stuff. So that has been super fun to me, and I'm really glad I've gotten to do a lot of that. I have learned that I guess Kelly Amonette was one of the first fisheries first responders, and he was Morgan County. So now all my Morgan County folks really expect a lot of pond help, and so I've been happy to try and fill those shoes. I'm not going to say I can, but I'm happy to try. So that's been good. And then two things I'm real excited about here at the bottom are working with Quail Forever and the Rough Grouse Society. So I've been in contact with Josh Turner from the Quail Forever group, and hopefully late spring, so probably end of May, early June, we're going to have a day set up where we can have Josh come out, and he will basically do a habitat, basically how to have set up your farm for quail habitat, or your land, whatever. That has quail and grouse are a pretty big passion of mine as far as conservation efforts go. And so I'm real excited to work with those folks. Like I said, Josh will come out hopefully in late spring. And then I've got to talk to quite a few people at the Rough Grouse Society. Mike Naduski. There's another guy that's a forester for him. I can't think of his name right now, but I've got to work with several of those folks, and hopefully they're going to come out in the fall and do a similar thing, educating landowners on how to produce grouse habitat on their property, because that's the biggest thing for those two birds. If we ever want to see them come back to their former glory, is we got to have the habitat for them, and getting folks on board, private landowners, that's the big thing. So hopefully we'll have a lot of participation with that. I'm super excited about it, and they'll be able to come out and do some education. Like I say, I'm super excited about those. But that pretty much covers what I've got.
Sounds good. Thanks, Josh. So any questions for Joshua?
Josh, this is a not exactly on topic, but did the Tennessee Environmental Council mess up your tree order? Like who got how many trees and all that, like they did ours?
They did. They I guess did not have enough plum trees, and so they substituted some mulberries. And then I got a call on Friday that there was somebody going back to the botanical gardens with plum trees, and me and Sean actually met there by coincidence, and because they did that to both of us, I guess, and so we got to go back and pick them up. They gave us a few extra trees. They didn't short us anything once they gave us the plum trees. We weren't short anything, but we did have some extras.
Yeah. That's great. We did it for the first time this year, extension, and we had we did about the same amount of trees, about 330, give or take. but we pre-sorted, we pre-bundled. And then on Thursday night, I got an email, oh, we sent you the wrong list of who got what and how many trees. And I had a moment. But it was a really great outreach for us. And we had a lot of people that are excited about participating in it next year. So
Yeah, we had a lot of that too.
like what we did. So I'm excited about it for an outreach for us, for sure.
Yeah. Did you pre-bundle them all by yourself?
Well, I volunteered my wife. Yeah.
I had a buddy that messed up and volunteered himself, and he regretted it. It took us a while. It was a job.
We're not doing that anymore. I don't think.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Any other discussion?
I was just curious on the quail and grouse. Is Craig Harper been involved in any of that or?
Not yet.
No, Craig, and I don't know if you know Dave Bueller, he's research teaching faculty, but they just got a big project on quail from TWRA. And I mean, I know they both have been working on quail for years, so.
Was it
Look-
on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was it
No.
on Catoosa?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I think it may be statewide where they're working across the state, but I know Craig and Dave both have both worked at Catoosa before, but.
Yeah. One of the guys I talked to from Rough Grouse Society did say that they have either just started or about to start doing some cutting on Catoosa, which is big for Morgan County because Catoosa's in
Oh,
Morgan
yeah.
County. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool to hear that.
Yeah. I tried several times to shoot a rough grouse, but by the time I got settled down after they scared me to death, they were gone.
Mm-hmm. They're good at that.
You know, I saw the first rough grouse I've seen, and I don't know how many years here on the plateau. Last year, or year before last, riding a bicycle down the road, I had one come up out of a ditch line. And those and quail, you just don't even hardly see or hear.
Oh, yeah.
On my farm here, you could hear them drum all the time, but you just don't hear it. Too many skunks,
Mhm.
feral cats, coyotes. You know, it's just been decimating on the population.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, Manny, I think we're ready for you if that sounds good. And we've got you muted, just so you know.
Ty, I
All
think
right,
he's just
let me
talking
get
to
shared
himself.
up here. Let's see here. All right.
So Manny is our fisheries first responder for the region, and we just wanted to take an opportunity to let him share a little bit about what that's all about and how he can help you out in the counties.
All right. Whoops, I don't need to hang on just a minute. I'll hit the right slide in a second. There we go. All right. I assume everybody can see my slide, so I'm going to roll on. Let's see. I need to switch that up at the top. Hang on just a minute. Let me get the right. I'm swapped to a different deal here. Let's see here. Back. Beginning. All right. Is that just my slides, Ty? Am I good?
I'm not seeing anything yet, Manny.
All right, hang on just a second. Let me make sure I've got two things going on here. Hang on just a second. Let me try this.
I'm telling you, those dual monitors are a curse.
A
Man.
blessing and a curse.
Yeah, well, I finally, just like me the other day, you've got to show it on your primary monitor. It doesn't matter which one that you've got that thing, but the setting on which one it's going to show on primary monitor.
Yep.
So while he's doing that, Josh, where did you go to school at? And I take it you've got a wildlife and fisheries background.
I do. Yeah, I went to Tennessee Tech. I graduated in 2015, I think.
Okay, where are you from?
I'm from Oliver Springs, Tennessee, which is Anderson County.
Well, good deal.
All right, let's try this again. Let me see if I know. All right, Tom, I up there now.
Looks great. Thanks,
I
Manny.
thought I apologize. I had switched computers and anyway. All right, you may have to watch my slides and not my lovely face. And then when I get switched around, we'll take care of that. All right, I asked Ty, and of course, this group is obviously interested in outdoors anyway, or you wouldn't be on this particular one, but I asked him on all three to let me spend just a minute because we have a lot of new agents and some are not even aware that we have a fisheries first responder program. So I have my contact info on the last slide again, so I'm just going to move on. And Dr. Hodges and Ty and Josh have already heard some of this, but I'll kind of go through it quickly for some of the rest of you that are not familiar. But the first responder program started in 2006 when prior to the present administration in forestry, wildlife, fisheries, decided not to rehire a statewide specialist after retirement of Dr. Hill. One agent per region addresses fisheries issues, and this is kind of over and above our regular county duties. Back at that, when it first started, there was basically no salary or expenses help at all, and there was a little bit of interaction with the forestry and wildlife fisheries program at the beginning. Originally, it was set as 15% of our time, and since everybody is either extension or UTIA folks on here, you know how unrealistic that was from the beginning, and it still is. It takes a lot more time than that, especially during the warm water temperatures and weed growing times and so forth. The original first three responders were Ron Blair, Craig Kimbrough, and Kelly Amonette. Ron is now the director of Lone Oaks, and Justin Hargrove in Benton County is the Western region. Craig is still the original. He is still Grundy County and the Central region. And I started doing this in 2015 when Kelly Amonette retired in 2014. And Joshua has already gotten warned that he probably will be kind of assisting me in some things coming up whenever we get an electro fishing boat over this way. So our responsibilities, and they vary a lot. We do try to do an agent in service every 3 years or so. Commercial aquaculture is supposed to have #1 billing, although we have lots of other things going on as well. We do farm pond management consultations. We do assist agents in training producers and doing field days. We've been speakers up at the Steak and Potatoes Day several times, and we do several things at both Crossville and Greenville with the 4-H centers during different things with youth fisheries. I've been several different times up to junior high camp and done some programming there. So we do try to work with youth as much as we can. And we are going to put a fisheries section into the hunter education part of that Josh was talking about. We've already talked about that a little bit too, to add some in with that. Just some of the limitations, obviously only one person per region. We do now have a travel and a supply assistance and a little bit of a stipend, but there's 33 counties in the Eastern region, so I do have to group up travel. I just absolutely cannot run all over East Tennessee every day and still do all the county level work. Commercial producers do get first priority. If somebody just wants basic water testing, sometimes I'll refer them to their local county office, but the alkalinity, pH, all those meters, the strips and the equipment are very economical. They're available. I mean, a lot of the same strips you use for testing swimming pools and that kind of thing will work for the very bare basics. So real bare basic water testing, I'll talk to people, I'll send them instructions, but I just cannot run and do a alkalinity test on every pond in East Tennessee. Those kits are readily available, and we'll be glad to help, but we just can't test every pond in East Tennessee. We try to group up, travel, do as much over email, photography, things like that as we can. And then we can do some research projects. If any of you ever have a pond owner that's interested in, testing some weed control chemicals or something, agents do have to be involved. We're kind of limited on what we can actually provide to private people. But if you're interested in doing a little research, we can help you with those supplies and things. We are glad to help with small little backyard ponds. Glad to give some basic information, but there are hundreds of those little small koi ponds that have been installed in recent years. Some really expensive, elaborate backyard water features, and we'll help people. But we can't be everything to everybody, and we've just got to limit ourselves. And if somebody is, big enough, like my brother in West Tennessee works on a part-time on a pond at a big farm. They've got 28 ponds on that one farm. Well, they're going to have to utilize a private management company. Extension's just not going to be able to fulfill that need and spend the entire time on that one farm. So we are not a substitute for a private management company, but we will try to help people all we can. I am going to revise my weed control reference section on our website, and I will send that out to everybody. There is a little weed control section in the UT weed control manual. Does a pretty good job of hitting all the big chemicals. You still have to kind of have a little idea of what it is and how to use it and the rates and that kind of thing. But that's still kind of our go-to place to get agents started with recommendations. We do get some blue-green algae concerns from livestock, especially if livestock are using that pond as watering. A lot of calls about people raising anything you can think of. I actually truly had somebody that was thinking about raising alligators with his neighbor's coal broilers at one time. I don't think that ever worked out, but we've had some kind of interesting calls over the years with different things people are thinking of. Construction of new ponds. NRCS has got a great publication for that I'll be glad to share if any of you ever have somebody that needs in-depth pond construction. Leaky ponds, old abandoned ponds, really common call. This pond hadn't been touched in 30 years type calls. Those are other real common calls. Won't list everything, but muddy, nasty water, putrid, stinky water. Lots of had 4 different, I guess this was a record year maybe in municipal drinking water sources with weed control issues. Of course, they're not going to be able to do any chemical control at all in those. 2 or 3 of them put those big shade balls in, trying to keep the light down. But lots of different wildlife calls also, where somebody's gotten otters or muskrats or beavers, and had a homeowners association that had ducks and geese all over the place, and they had kind of had a war going on. Some of them didn't want the ducks and geese because it made the water nasty and all kinds of weeds, and then the other ones wanted to feed the ducks and geese, so they just kind of left everything alone, I think. But lots of different calls related to that. Fish kills, dying fish. My neighbor sprayed, my fish died. My neighbor spread manure and it got in my pond. Do I need to aerate? Should I feed my fish? How much? Lots of different things like that. We prefer to work through the agents, but it is okay for producers to call us direct. That is not a problem. We do want them to know where their local office is, though, and develop a relationship with that office. So I will try my best to contact the agents and let them know who I'm talking to, and invite you to come if you can. And I'll talk about this in a minute, when we get an electro fishing boat up here, and I'm not sure if that will be this year or in 2022, but we will get one up here. That will be a 2-person job. So I will either have to have an agent or a home farm owner or somebody to assist with that, because it's just definitely a 2-person job. And there may be some more changes with the fishery first responder program over the next year or two, but we will address that when it happens. And several things been discussed that are to be announced, we'll say, with anybody that's on that committee. We'll not talk about that too much. Right now, the electro fishing fee is $300. And basically what that does is check the pond balance to see, you know, what if we're getting up multiple species of fish, multiple sizes, and that kind of thing. And you can go several different areas where this, if you drag a seine on one little section, you're not going to get, you know, get a good representation. So we'll definitely keep people involved when that happens. And that will probably, my guess is probably be 2022 before we get one up in this area. What we are not is a substitute for a pond management company. We cannot write full-blown management plans for homeowners associations or fishing clubs or wildlife clubs. I mean, we'll help, but we are just not a substitute for a pond management company. We cannot continuously visit the same pond over and over and over again. We'll try to train that producer on how to take their samples, work with the extension office, do everything we can, but you know, 2 or 3 times max, and they're going to have to be on their own. Now, I will say we've all got clients. There's a couple of people that pretty much one time a year I'm going to work them in and look at it, but you know, we just can't. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Every one of y'all has somebody in your county the same way. You just kind of have to limit yourself to what you can do. We can't give equipment or chemicals to the general public. We can provide agents things to assist with research projects, field days, and so forth. Our number one goal is to be a resource for agents. And I've already talked about that. There is a committee that has been working, and Ty and Joshua and Don Hodges there are all on that. And I think that was a very productive committee, one of the more productive ones I've been on, I might say. Not that any of us would ever be on a committee that wasn't productive. But anyway, we'll another day on that one. But I think we will see some good things happening with that program. There's my contact info. I think most of you already have that. And Ty, I think I will just open up for questions if anybody has any.
Sounds good, Manny. If I could, sorry, I had to log in with my phone because I'm gonna have to step away in my car for just a minute. My daughter's getting home from school and I've got to run down and pick her up at the bus stop. So if it's okay, Manny, I'm gonna go through my presentation real quick and then we'll have some discussion time and have some questions for you.
No problem.
Just to make that work.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you guys hearing me okay? Okay. All right, let me share my screen. I know a lot of you have been on here before, but I just want to make sure that you knew about this hay and pasture weed tour starting out in Blount County. And Neil Rhodes wants to go out with a bang. He's retiring. He says you can keep his phone number and call him if you really need something after he's retired. And he wants to support you, but he's going to pay all agent travel to go to this thing if you'd like to go down and help him go out with a bang with a big final hay and pasture weed tour. They just announced plans for the TAAANS state meeting. It's April 21 to 23 in Memphis. I don't know how many we're going to have going from the east. I'm looking forward to going, and I've been wanting to do a little trip to Memphis. Our hotel's about a mile north of Beale Street, I think, but hoping we might squeeze in a little music while we're there. And registration is $100 through, you can do it through PayPal, or you can send a check, and they sent some instructions. Don't be surprised if you see an extra $3 fee there, but Mark Spangler tells me we can get reimbursed whether you do that on your personal card or on a procurement card, that's allowed. You may have to submit your email with the documentation for reimbursement if it doesn't make it real clear what that receipt is for on PayPal. Sometimes they run into that. And we do have our region vans available if you want to carpool. The only bad thing is we've got to wear masks when we're in the vehicles, is what we're supposed to do, and we can only get so many in each vehicle. So just let me know if anybody's interested. I'll send an email out about that also. I think everybody's seen this, and I think most of you have been in one of these other sessions. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of this new handling on-site observation report form that we have. I'm not going to spend time on that today because I think you've seen it. I do want to remind you that Master Beekeeping Program is going online. Registration started today, and that begins on April 22nd. So John, if you want to share anything else during discussion, we'd be happy for you to do that. And registration is right there at that link online. So there's a tell your story in service, and I have a feeling that most of us saw that and didn't pay much attention to it, but this is put together by the UT Extension Visibility Committee, and it's basically done by agents for agents. And so if you're looking to sharpen up or broaden your video and video editing skills, I think this is an excellent in-service for agents that want to do a little bit of that. Whether you've done some already, I think they'll give you some new ideas, or if you have never done any of it and just want to see what it's all about, this is the thing to do. So check out these in-services, and I've given you the links to register there on the slide set, and I sent that out this morning. So you've got all that. You can click on it and go directly to those sessions. The Know Your Equipment is repeated twice, and then Capturing Your Story is also repeated twice. So that's late April and mid-May. Rachel Painter sent the email, and a lot of us may not know Rachel, so that's one more reason I want to make sure you had seen this, but you can go back and might find her email if you're like me and you don't delete too many emails, and that was on March 22. A bunch of things coming up. They mentioned the Tennessee Healthy Hardwood, and I just wanted to throw some dates here together for you that probably a lot of us would like to have on our calendars. I know Greg's involved heavily in some of this stuff. We've mentioned steak and potatoes too already. So just for your reference, you got a list of dates there to have handy of things coming up. And I know anytime I make a list like this, I'm going to leave things out. So throw it out there to us during the discussion if you got some other things we need to get on our radar. Here's some other upcoming online events. I knew this meeting was going to be a little shorter, so I wanted to make sure that you were kind of aware of these opportunities and give you some places to go find future dates. So we've got Hot Topics was actually this morning, talked about raising calves, and then the webinar Wednesday dairy topics. Turf Tuesday is coming up, I think, getting started again, and then those engineering elements are going on monthly. So check that out if you'd like to. I've gotten a few questions about this. I just want to make sure y'all are aware of this and trying to share that a little bit out in the county. There may be a few key individuals that this could really benefit. It's the TDA's Agricultural Enterprise Fund cost share, and that application is due April 1, and it's not something you can complete in just a few minutes. So if somebody needs to get on that, they want to start soon and have a little time on their hands to get that application put together. You're all welcome to come back next week, March 31. We've got our forages and row crop session just like today. Would love to have a lot of folks on, and it might run a little longer. So I'm going to say we might not finish till noon because we've got quite a few folks that are planning to share that day. So just want to give you a heads up. All right, at that point, I'm going to unshare. And let me just throw out for conversation. Any questions for Manny as I work towards the bus stop and join on my phone now.
And Manny, I've got a quick question. You mentioned that commercial aquaculture was the primary focus when this started. Are you getting many?
Not in East Tennessee. There's
Yeah.
still a little bit in West Tennessee, but I have had several calls about people doing trout up in the mountains. And once they kind of find out about the details, they kind of back out.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, the commercial aquaculture in East Tennessee is kind of a niche market. Like we've got some catfish guys they've worked out to sell to some specific restaurants, and you know, they've got some really like some volunteer fire departments that do a fish fry for 1,000 people for a fundraiser, you know,
Right.
that type of thing. But no, it's not big in East Tennessee at all. And I mean, the reality, and we talked about this in that
Yeah.
and back in that committee, but between, you know, the South Georgia, South Alabama, South Mississippi, plus the imports,
Yeah.
commercial aquaculture is kind of a niche market. Now when you talked about sustainable aquatics the other day,
Yeah.
I actually live in Newmarket, and I
Okay.
finally went through that place about a month ago. Boy, that is a hidden gem. I could not believe that place was going on in Jeff City. I'm like, wow.
I was floored. And I took, I mean, the fisheries folks we have, Gus and Justin, they was the same way. They said they thought it was going to be sort of a chinchy little place, but
yeah, that was pretty amazing. But no, that we don't have a bunch of aquaculture, especially it's almost all in West Tennessee.
Yeah, that's sort of what I expected. I just was curious, and
that was back when it first started. That was the case, and of course, homeowners and farm ponds just kind of took over at this point.
Yeah.
And Josh is already, I'll say it in public, he's already been warned. He's going to kind of be my trainee when I get the electro fishing boat. We may have to throw Jenny in there with us a time or two to let him out that many times, but we'll do that. So, yeah, we don't have a whole bunch of extension agents that are wildlife and fisheries trainees. So we're glad to get some when they are.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He's acting like it's a foul on my part. I'm excited about it.
No. That's good. I just wanted to warn him that was coming here before too long. So, but
Hey, Manny, as a sidebar, have you ever been to a commercial gator farm?
only one time. Yeah, we were on a tour in Florida, an agent tour side a long time ago. And I'm not talking about the one that's a tourist trap there, in St. Augustine. I'm talking about a real one. But yeah, it was interesting. It was extremely interesting.
Yeah, where the one you went to growing them all indoors?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was indoor.
Yeah, I know.
Sure was.
That one big commercial outfit down there, they said they started out trying to grow them outside, but everything that flew over those gators, they were up and distracting them. And so they moved everything to just total darkness indoors.
Right. Yeah.
I know really the first time that they cracked open one of those hot houses.
Yeah.
You think hogs stink, man alive, that odor coming off that gator. I mean, it will absolutely, it'll take your breath.
Not to get off on sidebars too long, Greg, but Ty's not here this second, or he's just listening. He'll talk. My brother, about 10 years ago, he's retired from TWRA now, but he got a permit with some of the Florida wildlife guys to got a gator permit to hunt. We got out in this little teeny tiny boat at night, and I was nervous to start with. Of course, those guys from Florida do it all the time. We got out there and all the lights went out, and when he turned this spotlight on, you hear splash, splash, pow, 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 splash, 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 and then this I mean, you felt like you were in some kind of nightmare movie. Eyes all over the place, just staring right at that little old boat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did, but you know, it was an experience. Oh, of
Yeah,
course,
I tell you, Kimbrough and I were fishing on Lake Eufaula here in Alabama a few weeks back, and gators had just come out and they were sunning up on the bank. And I took a number of pictures. I threatened to put them on Facebook and say, look what I saw on the bank of Watts Bar, but I was afraid I'd end up going to jail. I'd stare so many people up.
They do have a very few that are overwintering in the Memphis area now, I understand. So
Yeah.
We'll see. Anybody else have a fisheries question? And then I'm not trying to take over for Ty, but I know Greg wanted a minute to talk about your Thursday deal that you were doing.
Manny, if you can hear me, could you tell the group about that facility you mentioned there in Jefferson City? I don't know if everybody knows about it.
Well, Don probably knows more than me as far as the details, because the day I went through, the main owners were out of town selling their fish, but in some kind of big trade show or something. But it's called Sustainable Aquatics, and those guys are really top notch, really on cutting edge. And oh gosh, I don't know how many different species of fish they raise, but they are probably the top in sales for just aquatics that you see and sold at fish stores, you know, for aquariums and that kind of stuff. They're huge in that business. It's a shipping part of it really amazed me how they could get stuff around in that. But yeah, they're just they took over an older building in downtown Jefferson City and kind of refurbished it, and you can't even tell what it is hardly from the outside. A very indiscreet sign, but really a fantastic cutting edge business there that is really top notch, and probably very few people even know that it's there, but really a neat place.
I heard about it first actually from an extension specialist in Florida who said, he said it was the largest seller of aquarium fish basically in the world.
Yeah, it's unreal.
And it doesn't look that big, but they are really cranking out the volume.
Yeah, they really know what they're doing. They certainly do.
But we went up there because they have started, their whole business has been on aquarium fish, but they're now getting into trying to start in salmon aquaculture.
Okay.
And they have, again, they're talking about the fact that there's so much exports coming in salmon, but they can reduce the time to maturity, and they certainly don't have the shipping costs that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. They've got a lot of stuff to work out on that, but they've really got a good start on it.
Yeah, they're really cutting edge guys. I tell you, they've called me 3 or 4 times and they stumped my level of knowledge pretty quick, but I did get them in touch with some other people. So, yeah.
I'll tell you go ahead, Manny. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that they're kind of limited. You can understand a place like that is pretty limited on tours, but if you ever wanted to come through or something, I'm sure they'd work with you, especially just a group of a few, because and there's certain things in there you will not, they'll take your phone away from you. They did me. I didn't want pictures taken in some of it. And I get that. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say probably one of the neatest aquatic fishery type deals and stories I ever saw happened out in Garden City, Kansas. And there was a ethanol plant out in Garden City that was basically buying corn, making ethanol. And then they'd take the distillers off their ethanol plant, and they had about a 20,000 head feed lot that they fed the distillers grain to the cattle. But then they would take the hot water off the ethanol plant and actually was pumping it into big tanks in this giant warehouse building and growing tilapia. Well, they had decided that they were going to ship tilapia across to the Midwest, but they started noticing that their tilapia was disappearing at alarming rates. And they got to monitoring, and it was the Laotian workers that worked in all the packing plants out around Dodge City and Garden City that was stealing their fish. And so what they ended up doing was that they obviously locked the facility up, but they started holding a fresh fish market once a week. And they basically, from a cash basis, every week sold all their tilapia in a fresh fish market to all the workers coming from those processing plants. And the guy said that it was probably the most lucrative thing that they did was selling that fresh fish because it was all cash money. But what was interesting, once they got done with the water off the fish, they irrigated hydroponic tomatoes, and then they'd pump that water out. They had like 12 or 2,500 acres of alfalfa that they mixed with the distillers. And so this whole enterprise, basically the guy just kind of smiled and said, you look at us on paper, nobody makes any money. Because if one starts making money, one of the other enterprises just bills that person. And so they were all segmented but it was one big family feedlot operation. It was pretty neat. But the fish side of it, it was pretty amazing to see all these big tanks with tilapia in Garden City, Kansas, and them doing a fresh fish market. And he said, the cash money off that was maybe the best thing that they had going.
Craig, you want to go ahead and talk about I know somebody else has got questions. You want to talk about your Thursday deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So something that I've just, this week started what I'm calling our Thursday morning timely topics. At our research center in the Plateau Discovery Garden, we've actually been, over the last several years, we would have classes throughout the week and weekend on different gardening topics. And we would run in the course of a year, anywhere from 100 to 125 different programs. Well, with COVID, that shut down all of our in-person meetings. And we never really got on a routine last year of doing meetings. And so this year, to start out with, I've started, as a part of our classes in the garden, a weekly class that I'm trying to focus on about 45 minutes, hour tops, of topics that just fit horticulture that are pretty timely. And so like the first one was turf grass, and a couple of things that you all wrote down there that maybe the hemlock woolly algae treatment would be a really good program, or different tree and shrub pests, or something about the fisheries and aquatics. And it can be as simple or as complex. But like I said, I tried to hold the program to an hour. And what I was going to say is any and all of you are welcome to be a participant in that and join me in just kind of advertising and marketing. And the one thing that, as of right now, I'm just doing all the topics myself, but at some point I will invite other speakers in, because I know people will get tired of listening to me all the time. But having, if agents wanted to get engaged, I think like our first meeting, I really felt the master gardeners, they were going to do all the advertisement, and they got it out via Facebook and social media. We had 55 people enrolled and attended the first program, which I thought was pretty good just to kind of kick it off. But I think we've got close to 500 plus people on an email list too that we can get this information to. But I was going to just throw out, if any one of you want to participate, just let me know. I will actually make you a co-administrator, co-host, and, we can just kind of share in the, monitoring chats, monitoring activity on the Zoom meetings, and basically pick out topics to go through. So like next week, I'm going to do the So You Want to Grow Fruit, and make it about a 45, 50-minute program talking about fruit topics. We'll talk about raised bed. We'll talk about vegetable gardening. And if you jump in, I mean, I would value your input as to topics that you felt were timely. And I'd also value if you said, hey, I don't mind if Seth's got one on the beneficial. Seth says, yeah, I could do this for, as a timely topic, as a program. Just let me know, and we'll join in on all this stuff and just try and get as much outreach as we can.
Are you doing that at noon Central, Greg, or what time?
Actually, I asked the master gardeners when they wanted it, a group of master gardeners, and I said, I'll do it in the afternoon. We could do it at lunch, and unanimously, they all said, let's do a mid-morning. And I thought,
Okay.
I don't know about a mid-morning topic, for people. But I could tell in that Zoom the other day, I had people joining on from work. I could tell they were.
Yeah.
And so they just fired it up and opened it up, and it didn't faze them a bit. And for 55 people to join in on a 10 o'clock in the morning meeting, I thought, okay, this may work.
Yeah, exactly. I was just curious what they thought, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I said, I'll do it in the afternoon. Like, I didn't want to really do night meetings, because I thought, I first suggested to them like a quote unquote happy hour of knowledge,
Right.
right about quitting time or something, for an hour long They're like, no, let's do it in the morning. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine with me. If that's when you all want to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd prefer to work, during regular working hours,
Right.
but, and I was a little bit concerned about the audience participation, but, 55 people at just a regular meeting like that is a pretty good turnout for a first.
Absolutely.
So anyway, anybody and everybody's welcome to attend. Only reason I said John and maybe Sean and, Josh, kind of
they're real close.
plateau,
Yeah.
Plateau and weather and climate and stuff.
Yeah.
But, a lot of these topics, it doesn't make any difference. Josh is in Johnson City. I mean, his is probably very similar to what ours would be, just because the Upper East. Seth would have the advantage. I mean, everything hits him first, and then we actually just kind of tail behind, when things should be done. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there, and everybody's welcome to join in.
That's a really cool program. So you said it was Zoom. Are you also doing Facebook Live?
Well, I have not done it on, I'm baby stepping right now.
Yeah.
And I know that you can take and go from Zoom to Facebook Live, but I'm not savvy on that. And so I did not do it. Even the first one, I thought, do I want to do this as a Zoom, or do I want to do it as a webinar? And the biggest thing that I want to try to avoid and be careful of is, bad eggs crashing the party. And right off the bat, I had a couple of people that signed up that I was like, because I made them address, the whole 9 yards. I thought that'll deter people if I make them really do, pretty detailed information on sign up. And I had a few names. I was like, uh-oh, I'm going to keep an eye on this person. But they were for real, and they were there and they listened. And but I would be more than willing to go Facebook Live or anything like that.
I know that Scott County that runs on Facebook, everything. You can't find anything off of Facebook. And so, but
yeah, so I know we've like our Master Gardener program, because of our classes in the gardens, and other stuff. I mean, our master gardeners really, really, really heavily utilize Facebook, but we haven't really utilized the live video present programs and stuff like that. That's about the only thing we have not done.
Perfect. But yeah, it sounds like a really cool program. And so I'll probably be touching up with you
Great.
about it.
Once you try doing the Facebook Live, you won't believe how easy that is. Tom Stebbins has really gotten onto it down in Hamilton County, and they're getting all kinds of people viewing those sessions, both in the Zoom and then if they even hit capacity, sometimes they go over to Facebook Live. But even if they don't, they still catch more viewers on Facebook Live, either live or later on. Pretty neat deal.
Yeah, I'm not at all. And I talked to Dr. Baumgartner about doing that. And you know how Natalie's pretty kind of, super organized. She's just like, I'd probably just get my feet wet first. And then once you've done it, then maybe kind of get comfortable with your routine, then branch into Facebook Live. So that's kind of what I did. But yeah, Sean, if you know how to do that, I'd be like, hey, let's just, let's roll with something like that, and we'll do kind of both and get it out there and obviously record it. And I want to start doing that archive. We've shot a lot of video with home horticulture and stuff, and just so we can compile all those resources.
Sounds excellent. Yeah.
So whether you join me or not, I'll still probably be hitting some of you up to give presentations.
This group can do it, Greg. There's a lot of talent on this group. I could, for sure.
You bet.
Extension agents always amaze me how much talent there is in an UT extension. It just blows me away all the time.
Greg, that sounds great, and I'd be happy to help you too if we want to do a Zoom with 2 or 3 people and just blast it out. We just experimented with it with Clover Bowl, and as long as you're connected to a Facebook account, with like Cumberland County Facebook page, it really is just a click of 2 or 3 buttons and you're good. So I totally agree with Natalie. Start on the safe side, and then when you're ready, you can branch out. So I wonder if there's some other discussion, or maybe Don has some questions for the agents, just to get some feedback on programs in this area.
Yeah, I'll real quickly. I just put my contact information in the chat there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if we can help, or if you've got some suggestions. Since we're talking about online, I will mention some of you probably are aware of this. David Merker's got a Back Porch Forestry YouTube video series that is available. But my primary reason for being on this is just one, to say hello and make some contacts, but also we can talk about it now, or like I said, you can certainly contact me later, just in terms of, are there some programs, some topics that we could help out? Some of you may be new, but if you've been around, our Extension Forestry and Wildlife group have been, for the most part, have been around for a long, long time. But anyway, just really trying to get some idea of, you're back. Some idea of what are some things we could be helping out on, or what are we doing well or not doing well?
Don, one thing that I've always wondered about, and if I wasn't already sitting on a home fruits and vegetables, a master gardeners, a sustainable landscape, and a 4-H livestock work group, I would genuinely probably try and start some type of sportsman's program that was a culmination of wildlife and fisheries. And I cannot imagine, and now I don't want to call it the master sportsman program, because we've got two, as far as I'm concerned, they all run together, master programs. But in this state, with interest in small fisheries, and of course, I know Dr. Harper would cringe a little bit about people wanting food plots for deer. They want shooting plots rather than food plots. But I think if the education of the program went in to talk about the management of deer, the food sources, harvesting, the whole 9 yards, that, maybe you could change the perception of quote unquote shooting plots, but, from the fishery standpoint, the either the upland game birds or turkey or deer, I think there could be a serious program there that absolutely would be crazy how many people would attend it. I can't really believe that we've never done one anyway.
I know when I was talking to the Central Tennessee folks, they were talking, and I talked to Craig about it, and he was involved in it. There was and I don't think it was called a master or anything, but it pretty much was the same type of program that it was. I think it's originated at Clemson, but it ended up involving a lot of wildlife specialists across the South. And that was apparently pretty successful. And that's been 10 plus years ago, I think. But no, I think you're right. I think, I guess the same type of information I got from Central Group is like this, they thought there'd be a lot of interest in doing.
Yeah. And I tell you, even if you wanted to break it out into separate components, you take the fishery side of it. I mean, between just the money that's poured into the fishing industry on lakes, reservoirs, the number of kids that are participating in this, particularly since COVID. I mean, when you can have a state high school tournament and you've got 300 boats on a weekend and I think from that standpoint, there's an interest there that we have not even begun to, and I don't know of another university in America. Now, I know A&M does a lot of fishery stuff, and I know Mississippi State does, and I know Florida does, but at the same time, to really look at those larger reservoirs and making some connection with the sport industry and just the interest there, I think there's all kinds of opportunities. You take me, I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive 2 hours to spend a day on a southern Middle Tennessee reservoir. And here a couple weeks ago in Alabama, and I think as a university, it might be an opportunity to have some unique research and/or some working with TWRA. I know I've seen a lot of this stuff on reading up about the impact of fishing on reservoirs versus it's actually just spawning habitat and the fluctuations in lake and how detrimental that is to fishery populations, more so than fishing pressures on those lakes. But I wonder about even, stuff like that, or the management of off-limit zones within a lake, that might be nursery type areas for fishing. I don't know, just throwing stuff out.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other land grant universities, maybe they're out there and I'm just not aware of it, that's doing anything like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of the universities gotten away from reservoir fisheries in the last decade. Josh went to Tennessee Tech. It's not land grant, but I mean, they've got a very strong fisheries program. I don't know if they're doing much on reservoir fisheries right now. Josh, do you know? I know there's a lot of focus right now on Asian carp everywhere in Mississippi River region.
I'm not sure right now. I know when I was there wasn't a whole lot. But yeah, I'd be hesitant to say at this point because I've been out for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see us work with, and really get a strong partnership with TWRA, and whether it be habitat or whether it would be, this designated spotting type areas and working stuff like that. And I was teasing Kimbrough here the other day that he and I needed to get some grant dollars and invest in some tags and do some tracking of our own fish. You know, he's like, I've got a little bit of grant money, but just I don't know, just try to find a niche. And maybe as much or more than the research would just be the publicity that the university would get, that people across state be like, huh, they're doing something that I can kind of get interested in, and I want to know about it. And so it would be the publicity side of it, probably more than it would be the actual data and research that you got out of it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, as important as fisheries is in this state. Tyra, you?
Oh, I
Sorry.
would just echo Greg's comments. I mean, the exposure, not only for University of Tennessee and not only for UT Extension, but also your department would just be fantastic. I mean, it would be even a recruiting tool, I believe. And I think there's an opportunity there for two levels. I think there's people out there that would love to learn to fish that have never done it or not done it in 20 years. And then there's people that are very advanced that also want to, well, they want to know it all, and so it's almost like there's two level opportunities, and you could do the same thing on the hunting side, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I saw one of the specialists type from TWRA a couple of months ago. He was on Facebook Live, and he figured out real quick exactly the same what you're talking about. He started a kind of beginner and an intermediate into two different classes on turkey hunting and stuff like that. So, and he got overwhelmed real quick. I think he was expecting 100 and they cut off at 200. So, I mean, there's huge interest in that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Well, I think 4-H'ers, the high school fishing type tournaments absolutely blows my mind. I'll watch the college fishing, and how many universities you have never heard of in your life, that show up. And I think there's an opportunity there that, to be first and jump in on that might be a really, really big plug. And this is where I asked Ty, so is there money available for me to wrap my boat?
I'd have to refer to Don on that one.
Might be a little stretch there.
Hey, if I could wrap my boat off, I'll just wrap it UT Extension. Of course, it might look bad if I was on the lake all the time. I just have to tell them I'm doing research, just research.
So I appreciate that. That's something we have been, I've been talking or have been in conversations a lot about, I mean, just shooting sports and in general, and trying to do more on the 4-H side and fishing as well. So I'm hearing it from a lot of places. I think you're right. There's a good opportunity there. Excuse me. Oh, one question I have, Sean, you said you took some forestry classes. I'm just curious, where did you do that?
Purdue University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I got both my bachelor's and master's from.
They have a good program.
Definitely. But yeah, and as for the topic just talked about with the classes and kind of having the educational for people, beginners and not, I feel like it kind of pairs with gardening. And I know in Scott County, there's a lot of programs addressing how to garden because, 50 plus years ago, everyone knew how to, but then there's a generational gap. And the same is with hunting, fishing, outdoor skills.
Yeah, I think COVID really sort of drove that home. Everybody, we always get, I mean, we don't have a big garden, but we've always got a garden, and started trying to get seeds last year, and it was darn near impossible.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's when we're the SDS agent here, Amber Miner, she was trying to get canning lids last year, and that was a struggle as well. And she was talking about this year. She's like, "Oh no, I need to get them now. They're starting to disappear."
I do appreciate you letting me come on. And like I said, I put my contact information. Please don't hesitate to shout out if I can help or extension can help.
Anything else anybody wants to share, or any announcements for the group, or something to discuss while we've got Don with us? All right, well, thanks for bearing with me there. I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you a couple quick pictures. I think you'll like this. Just happened to get these photos of the new shock boat. And this is the first one of, I think, 3 that we're going to have delivered across the state.
Oh, cool.
And so there it is in the,
Yeah, that one's in the western region right now. They've tested it, and now Justin's got about 6 or 8 different places lined up already. So.
well, just like Greg was so dedicated, he offered to wrap his boat and go out and do all that research on the lake. Sure enough, we got some proof that it works. So they've been out with it once at least. I just got that photo. I think
that was on a Middle Tennessee research station. That pond there was.
Cool.
Hey, I'm just going to leave this here, but Craig and I catch bigger fish than that without a shocker.
All right. Well, thank you all for being with us, and thank you, Don, for being so interested in connecting with the agents. We'll look forward to maybe keeping this up, do it again one of these days.
Yeah. Thanks for allowing me to crash your party. So.
Sounds good. Well, y'all have a great weekend, and I just appreciate you being with us on such a pretty Friday afternoon. And we'll see you next week if you happen to come back for row crops and forages. See y'all.
Thanks again. Have a great weekend,
See
everyone.
y'all. Thanks.
Bye.